Okay, I'm having to redo this because whatever. I'm just gonna go ahead.
Awareness or ability to evidentially substantiate any designer outside of the universe. In this context, we can or not speak specifically of the Christian God, which I think is even less likely than a designer of any kind.
Okay, and so your worldview is evolution, Big Bang. Like, could you explain your thoughts on how creation came to be, just so that we're clear, because there's so many opinions
And I said the first time, I was like, I pray to God that all these people actually believe in the Big Bang and they're not just straight up science deniers. Bro.
about it. So,
If I just wasted 2 hours talking shit about these just blatant science deniers, I'm gonna blow my head off.
I would like to know so we have a good basis for the conversation.
I just wasted my time.
Sure. So I think that there are. So I do believe in the, I do recognize the legitimacy just with our universe. They've got that figured out. I don't think we can know what was dreaming. So
I like bringing up the topic of apologetics because I do believe that there are people who are very well studied. I know you mentioned that some people have think tanks and the archaeologists, historians, and all that. There's actually a really good documentary called "Is Genesis History of the Earth?" I don't think that 5,000 years versus billions of years is talking about evolution. And when you're talking about the flood and sediment and just all the age of the Earth, I don't think that 5,000 years versus billions of years is a heaven or hell issue. But I do think there's a lot of things that people have studied that have drawn more evidence to a biblical creator versus just coming out of an explosion or a big bang. And I would say that's where I come from. But I understand what you're saying, that it's
not a heaven or hell issue where it's like, for Christians, if you believe in one or the other, that determines if you go to heaven or hell. But we're not having that conversation right now, so you need to shut the hell up about that. Again, they come with all this irrelevant information. You're right that is true, but it is relevant. Like, if the Bible, which is supposed to be the word of God, has all this just blatant bullshit in it, like, why? You know what I'm saying? Why? And don't be like, oh, it's meant to be read as a fake story and just to, show his glory or whatever, his word or whatever. No, the hell it isn't. And even if it was, like, why isn't it made clear? It's just so many questions from that. This is why Baptists and most Christians treat the Bible as the Word of God. Like, because if not, it does. You can't act like that doesn't at least put a dent in the case for Christ. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's hard to imagine even for us as Christians, like, there was something before nothing, like there was something before this. And I think one thing personally that stands out to me outside the Bible is just consciousness. Like, we came from an explosion or these single cells organisms, and then it's like, but what about consciousness and like our conscience and morality? To me, there has to be some sort of basis for that in a creator. So that's like my personal stance and how I feel about it. But also, like I said, apologetics I think is very important, and I want to give other people a chance too. But I would also like to know, from your standpoint, with apologists and experts in their field, where do you think they're getting this information, or do you think they're misconstruing it to fit a certain belief? Or like, what are your thoughts on that specifically?
Sure. So a couple different things there. I know that there is this assumption that atheists believe there is no God, and that might be true. But the technical definition and the way that I identify as an atheist is a lack of belief in God, and that is very different because I'm not making the claim that there is nothing. I'm making the claim that because there is a universe, that doesn't imply that there's something. I'm not going to be the one to say that therefore an extraordinary claim.
So essentially, we have to pay attention to what's around us, right? From a practical standpoint, we can infer or conclude that a book has an author, or let's say, my shoes, they have someone who created them.
Yep, a book has an author. Mm-hmm. And
so on a very practical level, we can conceptualize that
human beings do have pattern recognition, and I can discern if a thing was made by humans or not. You're right.
Everything we see in the 3D realm has a designer.
Nope, not everything we see. That's not true.
The scripture also,
like, again, this is such stupid bullshit, like false equivalences that these guys do. Like, oh, look around you. Look, if you see most things, because we live in this, world now where we have made up, like, all the shit that we use every day. It's not like we got a stone fucking, or a stick or some shit that just picked up off the ground to, gather fucking apples and swing the apples down out of the trees. There's stuff around us that we made. Yeah, I can have pattern recognition, and I realize, hey, that thing was made by a human. It didn't just fucking grow out of the ground.
Also says that in Psalm that the heavens declare the glory of God. So we can't ignore the fact that we are in a realm, and God has
a realm. You see that please pay attention to the words that all of these losers keep bringing up about necessary realm. Like, shut up with the realm. Like, what are we in? We're in God of War right now. I feel like I'm genuinely like playing God of War Ragnarok right now. Like, shut up.
Has given us the opportunity to relate and to connect and to find meaning of the things that are around us. And then how do you reconcile gravitational strength and cosmological consistency? If we were to just imagine or reverse engineer everything that was created, we go back to the creation of the world. How do you reconcile the scientific structure? Go back to the creation of the world. How do you reconcile just engineer everything that was created? We go back to the creation of the world. How do you reconcile the scientific structure or perfection or order that even gives us the ability to, be here?
Mm-hmm. That was a good question. So,
no, it wasn't.
So, going back to just because we see books.
Dude, she's so polite, bro. She's actually so polite.
Have
These
authors,
people,
watchers, have
they don't
designers.
deserve
Just
her.
because we are able to create things does not imply that everything was made by a creator. It's possible, but that doesn't really imply, which is going back to the prompt. As far as the fine-tuning problem, why this universe is perfect for our species of life, and the Earth, all of that, the mathematical constants, I grant you that for sure. So this is kind of, I think it's called the observer paradox, but we as the species, as humans, can only observe this one because of all of these fine-tuned constants, because of all of these very specific physics. That does not mean that there are not other universes, the multiverse theory, that there are not other ways of life, that there are not other mathematical constants that don't exist outside of this universe. So that doesn't really, again, imply that a creator made this one.
That's my thing when they do like the causation or contingency argument or whatever. Like, yes, everything we see, and this is a whole different thing than, oh well, look, this has a maker. The maker argument. That people that say that are actually retarded, because they're trying to like imply that also implies personhood, whereas the cause and contingency thing doesn't. But with the cause and contingency thing, like, yes, everything in Earth, including natural stuff like grass or whatever, it has a cause and is contingent on other things, like the trees being contingent on, I guess, the sun being out and stuff like that. You know, like the sun isn't causing it necessarily. I mean, it kind of is. This is where it overlaps, and it's very weird to me. But it's contingent on those things. But it's just like with all of that, you know, the things that are contingent are only we can only know about what we observe in the universe. You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't mean anything about what's outside of the universe. There's no way to test that. And somebody gave me or not gave me, but I heard on YouTube a fantastic analogy one time, about, and I think it might have been like the brick analogy or whatever. Like, I think it was this. I think it was this, but it might have been something else. I think it was, if you see a bunch of bricks, you know, the bricks are small. You say, okay, all these bricks are small. And so if this brick is small, and this brick is small, and this brick is small, they're all small. So therefore the wall must be small, right? Because, like we're saying, this is contingent, this is contingent, this is contingent. So the thing, it must be contingent on something, right? But it's like, no. That's the wall. I mean, you can have a small block, a small block, a small block, a small, but the wall itself is massive. So it's kind of the same thing there, where it's like, yeah, everything we observe in the universe is contingent on other things, but that doesn't mean anything for the universe itself.
The existence of consciousness exists in this universe, that doesn't imply that it doesn't exist in others.
I think that doesn't really point back to the prompt of like why, like, okay, you could say that because we have the natural world that doesn't imply a creator and that you reject the intelligent design theory, but there's still something rather than nothing. And I think that poses a question of God question mark. Like there has to be a reason for all of this design theory. That doesn't really
Then
point
that
back to the prompt of like
doesn't point back
why,
to the
like,
prompt.
okay, you could say that because we have the natural world that doesn't imply a creator and that you reject
Yeah, it doesn't imply a creator because we have the natural world. It doesn't. Is that not the fucking prompt?
intelligent design theory, but there's still something rather than nothing. And I think that poses a
that's what I was just separating just a second ago. Whereas the contingency and all that, it does talk about just matter and items or whatever. But what the prompt is really about is about the personhood thing, which is why the First Lady brought up the maker argument, because she's talking about, look at all the things around us. If you look at something, we know a human made it. Therefore, you know, everything has a designer, aka create. You know, they're using the word designer and creator as, you know, synonymously, and it implies, but like, no. So no, actually, you are not addressing the prompt right now. She did.
question of God question mark. Like there has to be a reason for all of this because there's features of
Yeah, but creator implies personhood, so we're not even talking about that right now.
the universe that cannot be causally attributed to anything else in the universe. So whether or not you want to deduce it to like, oh, it's the Christian God, the Muslim God, it's just a necessary like attributed to anything else in the universe.
Reduce it. Remember, reduce, realm, necessary. Just add them all to the list. And she can't even fucking say reduce now. Now she's saying deduce.
So whether or not you want to deduce it to like, oh, it's the Christian God, the Muslim God, it's just a necessary being because everything follows cause and effect, right? So
Okay, but necessary being, we're necessary being whenever they go, and I hate the word being. Stop saying that bullshit. But the necessary being thing doesn't imply personhood. You have to do further arguments to actually get the whole personhood shit into it. And when you say creator in the title or in the prompt, that's what we're talking about, personhood.
in this world, in this universe, right? So
And I wouldn't be honing in on this if she didn't say, "Oh, you got to address the prompt," because she did address the prompt. That's my whole point right now.
Poses the question, why is there anything at all? Like, why me? Why you? Why trees? Why sun? Why air? That's really what the question of like what it is, you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. I am comfortable with the God question mark. You know, if this is here, is there something? I'm comfortable with that question. Where we kind of crossed here is the fact that everything has a cause and effect. On quantum mechanical levels, there is no cause and effect. There are probabilistic laws. So the cause and effect of this happened because something else happened because something else happened. That breaks down on the smallest levels.
And guess what? At what level did the Big Bang start? The quantum level. I think it was literally smaller than a proton at the beginning. And so all of that, I mean, think about how much shit is in the universe. Like, I'm pretty sure if we shrunk the universe down to the size of the Earth, or maybe it was just the observable universe, down to the size of Earth, our entire solar system would be the size of a molecule. So you could pick up a grain of sand, and there would be like trillions of solar systems in the grain of sand. Think about all of that matter compressed into the space smaller than the size of a proton. Okay, to act like we have any way to find out what fucking made that, and also at the same time we see that there are times where at that level even regular ass particles will pop in and out of existence. Who the fuck is it for us to say that that's not what happened? Like, that actually seems probable to me.
At that point, it's like an 80% chance that something's going to happen. So the concept of cause and effect does break down when you get into the really small physics. And again, I don't think that because in this universe, cause and effect is always a thing, suggests that outside of this universe, that is also the case.
I understand that. I think too,
Exactly.
but God is outside of space and time. And when we see the first line in Genesis, where it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, that's also now understood
So it
theologically.
actually does address both parts. What she said earlier addressed the creator and the other thing, because regardless of if you want to say it's a personhood or not, just a necessary thing, I'm not going to say being, regardless of however you want to cut it, it still stands that just because we have measured some properties about our universe, inside the universe, about items inside the universe, doesn't mean that we know a lick about the universe itself.
As God was creating. So when you said we have to understand where t equals 0, like the beginning of time, God is still constantly co-creating and sustaining this universe right now. So I think that it poses the question of like, and I like how you said that it's not that you don't believe that there's like no God, there's a lack of belief in God. So I think it just poses the question to conceive like, okay, it is plausible to believe that there's a God. Like you would say that, right? Because you didn't say that you didn't believe that it was like illogical. You just said you have a lack of belief in it.
I think it's more likely that there is not one.
Okay, and wait, why would that be? In considering like the creation of Earth and that there is a universe, like why would that be?
Because of the problem of suffering. That's why. Like, maybe there's some sort of like when you say God, you imply personhood. If you're just saying a thing, if you're just saying a necessary being at all, I mean that could literally be what we're talking about earlier about maybe there's some sort of like self-sustaining fusion force. I don't know. Like, it could be whatever the fuck, you know. And that wouldn't be God though. When we say God, we're talking about a person who has, or a being that has relationships and has an interest and they had a reason for creating the world, like wanted people for some reason. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I would say it's more than likely not, because of the suffering thing. Because unless he's just evil, but then if he was evil, I feel like he'd be a little worse than he is now. It seems like a neutral God, or a God that doesn't have as much power or power or whatever. I don't know.
Why do I believe that, or why does the universe exist?
No, why do I believe
that?
That it's more plausible that there would be no God at all?
Good question. I don't think it is philosophically, logically, even evidentiarily possible to prove, understand, or see any evidence of anything outside of this universe. So if the Christian God is outside of time and space, I'm not going to put my faith into something that might be like that. That's just not how my brain works, I guess.
And I think you
That
said though.
didn't really answer her question though. She's asking like, why do you think it's more than likely not?
I thought you said this. You said logically, philosophically deduce. So when you're going by logic, I feel like the good logic will follow that. You see that there's X kind of thing, like there's humans, there's dogs, and then you keep going down that there's going to be a reason why. There's a why for each kind of cause of thing. Not saying that there's a cause. You said the cause and effect breaks down, but if you keep going down, logically you could say, well, there's something rather than nothing. Logically, what do I deduce from there? There's some necessary being. Even if you don't want to call it God, that would be the next step in logic.
So logic, traditional logic, and I'm not an expert, but traditional logic.
Maybe there is. I don't fucking know. Maybe there's not. Again, you're just misunderstanding. You keep saying the same shit. She already is addressing you. She's like, oh, you keep going. Everything has a cause. Everything has a cause. So you get down back to the necessary being. Again, she just fucking said. I don't understand why why you haven't understood it yet. I guess when this lady right here talks, the rest of them, they don't understand the words she says. They might literally just not understand what she says, because she just repeated the same shit, not understanding how she already addressed that yeah, everything does have a cause or whatever, but once you get to the first point and you get to before the universe, that we just because we know everything else has a cause doesn't mean we know the universe itself at the very start or before the start also had a cause. Doesn't mean that.
Logic.
She's addressed you 7,000 times, and she's probably going to address her again here, and then she's going to ask the same shit again in some other way.
Only works if it has a scope, which is to say parameters of its logic. So the logic of what we're talking about here within this universe, there may be cause and effect all the way down, infinite regress, but that does not, because logic has a scope, that you can't take that logic and apply it to anything outside of it.
There's also intuitive logic too.
That doesn't necessarily.
But that follows in the natural world. Even when we have math and computers, it's not based on classical logic. It's based on intuitive logic. And there's variables outside of scope.
I was right. She said the same thing again, and then this lady just rewords it and says something like, "Oh, there's a different way to say the same fucking thing." Wow, it blows my mind how these people operate, bro.
Is that the creator, God, is outside of space and time. Even though he's outside of the scope of this material world, that does not mean that it's implausible or illogical to believe that he exists. Because even in computation, we know that there's variables that are outside of scope that still affect the programming that's going on.
If you're going to apply cause and effect to something outside of this universe, then you would have to keep going and say that someone designed the designer.
I have a question. Were you deep into your Bible before you became an atheist?
I mean, I don't know. I see both sides of that.
So were you always an atheist?
I was very, very Christian.
Very, very Christian. Okay. Would you say your transition or where you're at right now was due to a lack of belief, or people not actually applying what they believe?
Oh my God, bro. Can these faggots stop spamming deduced?
I see we're venturing into the no true Scotsman territory, but I went to public university to study religious studies and try and prove the validity of the Bible. That was what I thought my mission was, and as I studied more and more, the logic and the belief broke down, and I was not able to turn back and lie to myself anymore.
Okay. When I hear stuff like things, I always think about what side of Christianity people are on. I think there's the full scope of Christianity, and then there's discipleship and what people actually apply and how hard they go and how they live it out. I think there's a lot of things. I even think there's so much throughout the whole entire Bible that speaks of the natural world and speaks of how everything is put together, even as far as what we should eat and what we shouldn't eat. And when you actually break that down, it actually makes sense because you have these things in the ocean that are eating other things, and if we eat it, it makes us sick. Hey, New Testament, God gave us free will and said, hey, you can choose now. But it's just very interesting to see how he designs and set everything up. And when you break it down and study it out, it makes sense. Half the people that have something to say about the Bible are not even people that really studied it.
Wait. Did she just talk about how it says don't eat some animals in the Bible, and those animals ended up being toxic, as if that was something difficult to figure out back then?
About the whole entire Bible that speaks of the natural world and speaks of how everything is put together, even as far as what we should eat and what we shouldn't eat. And when you actually break that down on a scientific level, it actually makes sense.
Break that down on a scientific level? As in, a guy back then ate it, had diarrhea, and then they said, alright, let's not eat that anymore. Oh yeah, so fucking scientific. I mean, it is scientific, that is literally, but these guys, they don't understand science. They haven't actually done any science, and so they don't realize how simple science actually is. I mean, it's not actually simple. I don't want to sound like a fucking fag, but like, high-level science is extremely complicated, okay? But still, science like this is scientific level. It's just noting that it's toxic for you. Like, holy shit, bro.
It's because you have these things in the ocean that are eating other things, and if we eat it, it makes us sick. Hey, New Testament, God gave us free will and said, hey, you can choose now.
Wow.
But it's just very
She even said it makes us sick. Oh, so scientific.
interesting to see how he designs and set everything up. And when you break it down and study it out, it makes sense. Half the people that have something to say about the Bible are not even people that really studied it or even fully lived it out. To a certain extent, or saw it through.
Look at her, she always goes, I love that. I love that lady, bro.
I also believe that, yes, there's always going to be a cause and effect. There's always a reaction for every reaction to this third law. So I don't know, I'm very curious as to why, if you've read your Bible and you see all these natural things, why are you so against it? Because reality, the study of it on a scientific level is what's already there. Their studying was already put there trying to figure out how
So I think that's the Christian.
got there.
What do you mean?
I was looking at a thumbnail up here. That's why I was saying that. Okay, let's continue.
Against it. Against what?
The idea that God could be, if you've read your Bible and you see all these natural things, why are you so against it? Because reality, the study of it on a scientific level is what's already there. Their studying was already put there trying to figure out how it got there.
What do you mean against it? Against what?
The idea that God could be the one that created all this.
Well, it was a slow trickle, but it started with a lack of recognition that the Bible could be perfectly divinely inspired because of the history of the text and how it's been mistranslated on purpose to manipulate political agendas. All of that's that's why we call it deconstruction a journey, right? It ends up, okay, well, if that's not true, then what about this? If that's not true, then what about this? And it got me all the way to my belief in God not really working. And to your point, we have a 100% historical record of, in the past, whenever we didn't understand lightning and we said, well, it must be God. When we didn't understand volcanoes, well, it must be God. We have a 100% record so far of everything that we attributed to God because we didn't understand it or God, of eventually scientifically explaining it.
Scientifically explaining how it was created or the dynamic of it and how those things happened.
So my point is that just because we don't understand the initial cause of the universe, this is called the God of the gaps theory, it does not mean specifically that there has to...
Obviously, she thinks she cooked right there. No, dumbass. The whole time they weren't using God to explain how the volcano was created. They were using God to explain how all the bullshit, how it was erupting, how it came to be. Not like, oh, well, how was whenever you reduce it all the way back. Oh, I love how they got me using that word now. When you go all the way back to fucking t = 0, How was all of it created? No, asshole. That's not
or
what I'm
God,
talking
of
about.
eventually scientifically explaining it.
Scientifically explaining how it was created, or the dynamic of it and how those things happened.
The dynamic
So
of it and how those things happened. And then how she ended it with her face. I can't even do it. I'm not that much of a queer.
Just because we don't understand the initial cause of the universe.
I know I've been saying fag and queer a lot these videos. I'm not actually homophobic in the slightest, by the way, so don't. That's not what I mean. But if you're getting all upset about it, I don't really care too much. I want to be honest.
This is called the God of the Gaps theory. It does not mean specifically that there has to be a God. I'm just saying that up until now, historically, we've had a 100%
I actually apologize for that.
track record of proving things that we didn't understand and that we called God. So maybe in the future, that which we called God, the initiation of the universe would be scientific record of proving things that we didn't understand and that we called God. So maybe in the future, that which we called God, the initiation of the universe would be scientifically explained. I'm saying that based on our track record, that seems likely. So
I agree with that fully.
Okay.
I was going to say too, I think what she was saying is not that
Would be scientifically explained. I'm saying that based on our track record, that seems likely.
I agree with that fully.
God, the initiation of the universe would be scientifically explained. I'm saying that based on our track record, that seems likely.
I agree with that fully.
Okay.
I was going to say too, I think what she was saying is not that like understanding how something works isn't understanding why it's even there at all. And then to pivot back to what we last said, I don't think that when you get back to, well, you have to say that someone created the creator. God is not a creation like us. God is outside of space and time. He's not one of the things that you see inside the universe at all. He's completely separate and different from our understanding. So you don't have to say that God was created because he's not a being like us.
Right. So my point was that if you're using the logic within the universe that we see, that for the most part works of cause and effect, there's always a designer or something. If you're using that logic to something outside of the universe, which is to say that because this universe exists, it must have a...
How is she's explained this like 5 times. If I was her, I would actually be yelling at this point. How did she say the same point 5 different times and be calm every single time? I don't know. It's actually a superpower. It's a superpower, bro.
The cause of something outside of it created it. If you're taking that logic and transposing it to something outside of this universe, then you would also have to start proving why that cause was caused. You're taking the logic of what we see in here, trying to transpose it outside of the universe.
Face, bro. She's so... Why are you so
something
fat?
outside of this universe, and you would also have to start proving why that cause was caused. You're taking the logic of what we...
Holy, I know this is friendly fire right now, but she's just pissing me off. Like, come on, bro. What is that face? Is she like, oh, I'm concerned for you. Oh, you're going to hell. I feel bad for you. You're less than I.
We see in here trying to transpose it outside of the universe. And that's what I mean by in that case. I'm not saying at all times, but in that case, if you're using that logic, you do have to show that God was created.
And that's why it goes back to, I think, my previous point, is when we're talking about the beginning, it takes faith no matter what. Because, I mean, we could all agree with that. And be like, God was not created what? Like, I don't think we could understand that in our minds, like how that works. But I feel like similarly with the Big Bang what? Like from what? Like, it's kind of
same.
So I'm glad that you agree with that. And I do feel like some of the comments that you're making about like God question mark, you can kind of see that it does seem more agnostic than atheist. I could be
the same thing, but I am both.
Okay.
So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, from my understanding, it was very, very different things, but I understand what you're saying now.
Real quickly, just definition. So agnostic, again, this is like everyone can call themselves whatever they want. But in my case, the agnostic refers to whether or not I think we can know something, and I tend to be agnostic as in I don't think we can be 100% certain about anything. Atheist is specific to the fact that I don't see the evidence for a creator being. So one's about knowledge, one's about God.
I think fundamentally the core difference is belief versus disbelief, and faith versus not having faith. And the Bible says that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And I don't think as humans we were given the capacity to know or to see everything. The Bible says.
I love how people like take that as 100% like literal and serious. Like faith is
that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the
the
evidence.
substance of things hoped for. And this is why we need a whole nother translation. People need to stop reading these weird ass, like ancient ass translations, bro. Because it just allows them, it gives them a free pass, and they think they're being all biblical and holy when they like talk like this. Substance of things hoped for. Anyway.
Of things not seen.
And the evidence. Listen, faith is evidence of things not seen. So when I had faith in Santa Claus as a child, that was evidence of things. The thing who has not been seen by me. My faith is evidence for that. Okay.
And I don't think as humans we were given the capacity to know or to see everything. But with faith we can work with what we have, and it will give us a better understanding of who God is and bring us closer to Him and His will. So that's what I would say.
Well done. Christianity is inherently patriarchal and therefore harmful to women.
Okay, that's enough. So, yeah, I just wasted most of my day, and yeah, I did. I wasted most of my day. I mean, that's all there is really to it. But I had fun. My head is killing me right now because I have actually been raging. I think I probably ruptured all. I don't know, bro. The video's over though. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, myself, for listening to this again. You are my #1 supporter. Please, you hit the bell, hit the like button, so the bell, so you can get notifications. It helps out with the algorithm. Leave a comment, all that thing, all the stuff. Donate on Patreon. I got my Patreon down in the description. Not really. And yeah, so yeah, you have a good one.